Okay, hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm GM Mainly here, and now we are opening a brand new YouTube series which is called Tuanalysis. It sounds pretty funny, but just like some viewers games analysis with me. And thank you Screws for inventing that name. So for the series here, I'm going to analyze a random viewer's game, trying to explain the game from a GM's thinking process, and also answering viewers' questions, and try my best to make sure you guys can understand what's going on in the game, right? So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. And also, I'm happy to kind of make sure that this can become a long, kind of, a good content, and an instructive one as well. So let's start right away. In this game, so I will try to analyze from both sides obviously, but Lodgers is the one who asked me to analyze his games, so I will mostly get things from the black side, but obviously I will answer from White's perspective as well. So let's start the game right away. The game is between Cesarek, who's like 1225, and Gus, who's like 1300 in blitz. The time control here is 3 minutes without increment. Let's go. The game starts with d4, and Gus play d5. c4. So White play the Queen's Gambit, right? Which is obviously very common. And here, Gus chose a relatively rare line. I don't know if you guys will meet this one plenty of times, but this thing is fairly rare. The line is 96. It is called a Chigorin Defense. In general, this line is somewhat a rare one, and somehow, like, you might not see that plenty of times, even in high-level chess. But the idea here is that, you want to get attack on the square on d4, and then it can guess the game to something really, I would say, tricky very, very shortly. Also now e5 can be done as well, and this thing is a bit tricky. So I will try to mention something about the opening first, so that you guys have some ideas about what's going on. In the game, White play c3, so we should mention that like at last. Here there are two main things White can play. The first one, he can play the cd5, get a strong center, but this one can lead to something pretty fun. This is queen d5, this one, queen d5, attacking the pawn on d4, right? And here the main line is like e3, defend the pawn, Black play e5 instantly. This can only be done with the help of the pawn with knight c6, right? Take here, take with the queen, or take it with the one which is good for you. So the main line here continues with like knight c3. That's what it should be 4 here. Queen the knight. And the main line should be 2. You touch on c3 here, defend the queen. bc3, knight f6. And c4, you play queen d6. This line is in fact really, I would say uncommon in the early level, but it is actually doable for Black. White have a bishop pair here, but Black is faster developed, and he can just try and play like here later on, So this one is pretty tricky, honestly. Also, this one is a bit, rare as well, so you may not see that plenty of times. The main idea here for White, which to avoid tricky thing, is to play knight f3. You see, right? Which stop e5 and defend the pawn on d4 as well. And now Black can play bishop g4. As mentioned earlier, keeps the game become fairly complicated. So cd5 here, right? Which is the main thing. Take with bishop f3, this one, gf3, queen d5, and e3, e5, and this one again, right? Another fun positions here when, as you can see, the same issues can be seen. Black got 2 knight for the bishop here, but the king here is relatively weaker, isn't it? This line is not fully bad. It is just a bit, I would say, strange and weird in terms of normal play. So that's why you won this one plenty of time. The idea is to support e5 early, and black will try to fight in the center instantly in move like 3 or 4. You understand me, right? Obviously, if anybody had any questions, feel free to ask here. But obviously, the thing here with this slide is that somehow the knight here prevent the pawn on c7 from moving, so that sometimes black couldn't play like here or here easily. In the game, why try knight c3? Attack the pawn on d5 instantly. But this line is considered to be relatively not precise. Here, black can play dc4 instantly, which will lead to a really complex game. Maybe after, like, you know, knight 3, you play like knight 6 here, and e4 you play s1, which is playable, but I wouldn't say it's like completely fun. For me, the way that white can deal with this stuff is to play s1. Like, you know, here, then knight e5, you get bishop f4, you can see, right? Somehow white can get relatively easy developments, and he should not be in any real trouble. Are there names for these lines? This line is called Queen's Gambit Decline Chigorin Variation, as you can see here in the screen. Okay? But in the game, black doesn't seem to know theories, which is pretty sad. So he play e6. This one basically make knight c6 become wrong. Why? Now e5 is just like you need to waste the tempo, right? And the knight here prevent pawn from moving as well. The bishop here cannot also develop. So now this move here is a bad one. And now white can just develop fairly easily in the game. So e3, knight f6, knight f3, e4. Understandable, but not doing much. But okay, it's fine move, so I'm not going to complain about this. Should e3, should e7. You can see it, right? The bishop here seems fairly passive. In fact, really passive, you know? In fact. And that's why here it's not so easy for you to find a way to develop here properly. Here, I think the best way to play for black is to just like castles, and then he can play like maybe knight to e7, or also play one as well, which is leading to a normal theoretical line with e5, you know? Oddly enough, now this one leads to the Chigorin Defense of the Nimzo Indian, and that is a very clear example of how things can be changed, like so fast in openings. Well, so for the chat's question, can you play e4 instead of e3? e4 is wrong due to the fact that the pawn on d4 is hanging. See, right? So knight 4 dropping the pawn on d4 instantly. Somehow this is the only, I would say, good prospect of the knight c6 move, which is pretty fun. So that's why e3 here is fairly understandable, and I think white developed in a pretty good way. But in the game here, should e7, castles. So now, white, obviously he can try like queen c2, queen e2, or a3 here as well. Everything here leads to a perfectly playable game for him. e4 here is impossible due to bishop c3, right? And take here, allowing this, and he is down a piece instantly. See that? So I think a3 here will be the simplest option for him. In the game, he plays c5, which is a bit weird. Normally, c5 is pretty wrong in this type of positions. So now, first question for the chat. Can you tell me here what is the most typical response that black can do against this c5 pawn push? So for chat, what can black do now to obtain a decent position? Starts. Each question will normally, I think, last for like 30 seconds to 1 minute. So I want everybody here to have a time to think, you know? And I want everybody here to have a time to understand what's going on with my questions. Understand me? Apparently, I also want more people to join the fun and to join the lesson as well. Okay, so I see no more people in the chat. I guess I will just keep it up with the lessons. So c5 here is considered to be fairly inaccurate since black can play b6 instantly. So for someone here who can fight b6, that's the best move. Somehow, I mean, what I can say here is that with b6, it can just attack the c5 pawn right away, and here white is kind of forced to take on b6, you know? If not, he will be just down a pawn. The idea to go with c5 is only working if white can play a3 or b4 to support the pawn. Like this thing here, in fact, is quite common in the normal Queen's Gambit variation. Let's say here, knight f3, knight f6, let's c3, bishop e7, bishop f4, castles, e3 and d7, and here c5 is perfect. Since now white can play b4 and support the pawn, right? And this one is wrong due to c6, and you can see here that the knight will be really passive, isn't it? But in the game, c5 is wrong, since you can do this one right away and play here, right? Take with the a pawn, and you should be completely fine for black. I think in the game, so white just want to, you know, trap the bishop on b4, right? But the bishop here can always take on c3. But that's why that somehow this move is not the best. In the game, so Gus also chose a really good move as well too. Group E8. This one is really nice too. This is also a really good way to deal with the c5 pawn push. Since here, you can prepare e5, you know, to attack in the center too. And this in fact comes in time. White can play knight e2, you know. And now, if you don't go for e5, your bishop here will be trapped. You got e5 now, and turn e4, right? And now you're in time here to create counterplay. And you should be fine here as well. Like if you play like a3, you got like e4, right? Or even here as well too, and e4, and you are fine for black. If you play d5, you take with the knight, and the pawn here is hanging. You see that? So that's why here black is in time to create counterplay. That's why c5 here is wrong. You guys understand me? If my explanation is not clear enough, or if I have not pleased you guys with my explanation, please tell me so that I can slow it down, or I can try to explain better. Back to the game. Knight e5. A good move? Takes. At first sight, the knight seems to be hanging, right? But then it can home with its squares. So in the game, you take with c3 here, which is perfect. In fact, why mistake with the b pawn? But it can allow plus knight e4, right? And now this pawn here looks pretty bad. Taking a4 here is good for black, since now he got a much healthier pawn structures. You can see here, right? White has more pawn islands, and these pawns here are fairly weak. The idea now can be simple, say bishop here and the queen to g5 or queen e7, right? When these pawns are some clear target to be attacked. You see that? In the game, typical for a 1200 player, he committed first mistakes, e6. Why simply miss that? Now black can just recapture with the bishop here, which happened in the game, and it's a pawn up. So now things got wrong here, and now black need to convert a pawn up right away in move 11. In the game, bishop b1 was played. So one thing that is extremely clear here, is that you always need to ask yourself, what does your opponent want to do, right? And here, I think it is quite clear that he wants to go for this kind of bishop and queen battery, right? One thing that is important in chess, I would say important for you, for me, and for everybody, is that we all need to kind of understand what are our opponent's threats. When he made a move, slow down a little bit and try to ask yourself, what does he want to do? If that is something so serious, you can try to stop that right away. But if it's not something so terrible, you can just focus on your own plan. In fact, this idea here is not too serious. So you can always play like this move here, and you're fine. So now you can play queen e7, for instance, play queen c2, right? You play g6 here, and you can bring rook to d8, and push the pawn. You see that? In the game here, Gus chose a different approach. Just fine too. Bishop b5, attacking the rook here, and also defend queen d3. Moreover, bishop now is more active, so it's not too bad. In the game, rook e1, e5, perfect. Not the best way of, developing your bishops, but obviously it's playable, since now you can get a strong center, right? The only, I would say drawback of this move here is that now the pawn here becomes slightly weak, which allow black to play a4 as well. So now, for the chart here, where do you think bishop can retreat? This one somehow I will say that it is slightly trickier. The thing here is that now, first of all, bishop here, it has like 5 different squares, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 4 squares only. I'm so sorry for that. So here, if you play bishop to c4, it is also fine, but it could be 3, right? Bishop here, and little thing here I mentioned earlier. So now you can play basically everything, just not this one, which hang upon here, right? But here there are some drawbacks. You play here for instance, right? So b4, and now you must be a bit careful about your bishops. See that? So here you must find this move for instance, and you will find for sure. Since now no way your bishop can get trapped anymore. Bishop c6 is fine too, but you can see, right? The bishop here seems fairly bad place, right? So b4 can be a thing here, and now you must play something like a6 to stop the b5 ideas, and also you must play like d4 next to be able to release bishop out of this bad squares, isn't it? Bishop c4 is fine too, but then b3 And here, here as well again. So in general, here the thing with the bishop is that it kind of don't have many squares available, right? But then, so if you are careful enough, you are fine and you may not need to be worried about your bishops. Understand me, right? So in the meantime, if you guys have any questions about the games or about like what happened in the game or what you guys decide or what you guys see, please feel free to ask me, that I'm happy to answer you guys' questions. I will tell you that like questions is a good way to improve, and the more questions you guys can see and you guys can ask, the more things you can learn from that, you know. Back to the game. In the game, so Queen C2 was played, E4, perfect. I will give Gus an exclamation mark here. I mean, it's not for the strength of this move here, but this one is really powerful. And this one gives your pieces plenty of room. Why? Here, with this move here, you are allowed to play bishop d3, you know, bishop d3 here. Or you can just like play here or play here, you know. This pawn now just stop his bishop and queen battery. Also, now you can be able to play this one as well. In the game, f3 was played. This one looks fairly weakening, right? But then take here is wrong due to this move. And now things can become a bit tricky, isn't it? So here, guys, a question for you guys here, which is quite a fun thing. If you guys are black here, what can you do? Obviously take here is wrong. Because if you guys are black here, what may you guys want to do here? Okay, some questions, I will try to answer that. First of all, about question of Neil Sam Fisher, that why did you try something earlier? I will tell you guys later on. Since I need to ask, I need to like skip back a little bit. Why you don't play? So I am making a YouTube video of a new series on my channel. I will play tomorrow. Why you give this one an exclamation mark? Simple. Here, as I mentioned earlier, you can play here as well, right? This one to stop the threat here. E4 is much better since now it can give you more space. You can stop this one here, and you can see now they get plenty to do, right? But that's why for me this deserves an exclamation mark. So okay, so here there are plenty of ways to play. First of all, ignoring this threat is the thing to do, right? Ignoring the pawn is a good thing to do. Here you can play plenty of things. For me, so if you guys don't know what is the best way to play, you can just try to leave with your pieces. Let's say Queen d7. Oops, you mean that? No, not that move for sure. Queen d7 for sure, right? And then what we did here, bring your pieces out, which is obviously a good thing to do. Bishop d3 here is completely playable as well, since now you can be able to trade the bishops here as well, and you can slowly win the games of a pawn. For me, if you ask me for my ideas, I would like to play Queen d7 or Queen e7 moves, trying to finish the development, considering the fact that white looks fairly passive, isn't it? So earlier, Neo Sam has asked me that, like, can you play bishop a6 earlier? That's here, right? And then go back to b6. That's one right here as well. This one here, I don't like this one here, since now you can see it, right? Somehow white can get some space in the queen side, and you know it can get tricky later on, you know, which might not be so fun for you to try. Although you should still be fine after like this one, for instance. I think black is still doing relatively okay. You see that? Why go bishop d3? In fact, I can tell that since you are better right now, the trick here is also working as well. But I completely agree with you. For the more lucky, that somehow bishop here looks so bad, right? It is already damn restricted. So I think there's no point in trading that. Like here, for instance, right? So now suddenly you can see that bishop here is gone, and then things may not be so, Like you need to trade a bad bishop for the good bishop, you know, which is normally a bad thing to do. In the game, Gus went for a relatively bad plan. Doable, since you are so much better, but this one I think is not the best one. He played h4, taking the rook. This is called a one move trick, which in high level, it's not the best one, but in blitz, especially in early level, this one is fairly common. In the game g3, g5, okay, f4. Okay, now another question for you guys. Which recapture you want to play? Rook e4 or d4? You got two different recaptures. Which one you guys prefer? Okay, already there has been 3 rooks and 3 pawns, right? So this one, in fact, I will say it depends on you guys want to do. Now, there are two different ideas, you know, that you can try to go for. Which one you want to play depends on you. Depends on what you want to play. First of all, you can play d4 to restrict bishop right here on b1 and somehow trying to make him become still very passive. Like now, so you can just like queen here out and slowly attacking him, especially when the bishop here looks fairly useless. The second idea here is connected with rook e4, and then you can start putting pressure on the pawn on e3. But this one here will be a little bit risky, since now the diagonal is open, you know. Like queen b3 now can be a thing, and then suddenly now both your bishop and rook are under attack. You see, right? So you must be a little bit careful with it. So personally, I prefer d4 more, which will be safer. So for you guys, I can just only recommend and advise you guys that if it's not forcing, please don't put your pieces in some kind of discovery, since it will be a little bit tricky, you know. In fact, this one is still fine. You can play here another intermezzo, and you can play here right now, right? This is for you. But then you must be more careful, especially now white can try to trick you with some, you know, dirty tricks in this diagonals. Obviously, if you are confident and if you are fine with this threat, you are okay. But you know, here in the game, like it's down in time, you see, right? And also in a blitz game, I would say d4 is much safer. In the game, d1, queen e7, good square for the queen. Rook d4, bishop d3, perfect. This one is the best one. Somehow you win material directly. Rook a8 is fine too. Bishop d3 is much better. Not only can defend the pawn on e4, right? But here you win material instantly. Why? We play queen c3, right? You got this move here and you win a exchange. We play queen to b3, you can just play bishop b1 and queen c5, isn't it? If you play queen d1, you're gonna play here as well too, which give you second pawn, right? When things just become much easier for you. So this one is perfect. In the game, white went for desperation, b3. It is wrong, but then nothing easy now can be considered. In the game, so text here, d3, g6. I like it. Extremely safe. Obviously, I can take here on e3 first with checks, or even here as well too. But you just play something so safe, and I like that a lot. You see here, right? He's down on time. So play for safety when he's down on time is always a nice thing to do, right? In a game, substitute was play, should be 3 good. Now time for some kind of you know, simplifications. In the game, Gus played that perfectly. G2, C1, nice. He can play here too as well, you know? Or here too. In the game, he just went for own kind of simplifications. Takes here, and Queen E2. takes, and you see, right? He got on the pawns. So, nicely play. E7. From here to B8. Defend upon here again, right? And in the game, so white basically dropping things here with C2 and it's over right away as well. So somehow the game ended quite, you know, abruptly, right? Like all of a sudden. But then it is quite clear that black is completely winning now. He is up 2 pawns and he got on the change, you know, when he can slowly trying to convert. So in general, black played a good game. I think Gus played a good game and he kind of outplays opponent. The opening is not like a really good play by black, to be honest. But then somehow c5, you can see, right? It is a wrong move that leads to some kind of not so easy play anymore for white. And then you can see that after that. Let's in c3, and he makes the pawn here become really weak, right? White mess it up by playing e6 here. And after that, like win a pawn. And in the game, I think the conversion by Gus is fairly precise. I couldn't really find something wrong, of this, you know? So, okay, a nice game. And, you know, obviously a nice win for Gus. So, you understand me there, right? So, now time for the chat. And for Gus himself to ask questions about the game. And to, you know, tell me if you guys can understand the game clearly or not. I think it's unclear. It's just like a game where black opted for somewhat a realize. White dealt with that fine, but then he just missed a pawn in move 11, which is obviously a question mark move. And after that, black just converted nicely. Right? Okay. So, if I see no questions right here, I will just stop the video and we'll try upload to YouTube. Hopefully you guys can see the videos later on and can try to enjoy the things. This is the first time ever I just start the series, so hopefully you guys can enjoy. So once again, love you all and see you in some other videos. See ya.